Hey guys, what's up? Killjoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we're pitting the original Hellraiser film against one of its sequels, one that my patrons chose and said was the best Hellraiser sequel. This really hurts to say, but y'all chose Bloodline. I'm starting to think my patrons hate me a little bit. They made me rewatch this crazy movie. I don't know what to say. We're gonna get into this epic battle in just a second here, but before I do that, I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Alright, now let's get into this battle. Get over here! Now before I pit these films against each other, let's talk a little bit about them. Hellraiser is a 1987 British supernatural horror film, written and directed by Clive Barker. It's based on Barker's 1986 novella, The Hellbound Hearts, and was also Barker's directorial debut. The plot involves a mystical puzzle box which summons the Cenobites. Ah yes, the Cenobites, horror villains who are very clearly into some BDSM. But come on, this is Hellraiser. You know what it is, right? Doug Bradley as Pinhead, or Hell Priest, whatever you want to call him. Do I really gotta talk more about Hellraiser? You already know what it is. Let's talk about its crazy sequel. Hellraiser Bloodline, that I almost always accidentally say as Bloodlines, is a 1996 American science fiction horror film and the fourth installment in the Hellraiser series. This crazy plot serves as both a prequel and a sequel, directed by Kevin Yeager and Joe Chappelle. It's a prequel and a sequel. This film's got everything, except it has nothing. But we're gonna get into that in just a second here. Let's talk about the good. Starting off with the original Hellraiser, this film has horrifying imagery. The nail going through the hand, Frank's body transformation, how he grows all of his meat back on his bones. The Cenobites, just how scary those guys look, and we don't actually see them until the third act basically. There's a lot of excellent gore and horrifying effects going on throughout this entire movie. Probably the biggest plus out of all of these for me. The Cenobites! No, not cinnamon bites from Taco Bell, I'm talking about the Cenobites. The crazy and iconic killers from this movie. Well, kinda killers. They take you to their dimension and they torture the hell out of you. And of course, everybody's favorite Cenobite, Pinhead Larry. I mean, just Pinhead, or the Hell Priest as he's actually named.
Who you calling Pinhead?
I wonder where Pinhead came from. I believe the first time they actually say it is in the third film, but did audiences start calling him that because they didn't want to call him the Hell Priest or they didn't know what his name was? I've always been curious about that. I wonder if somebody out there knows. A terrifying final act. The ending to this film still makes adult Jake go crazy. So thankfully baby Jake never saw this or he would probably shit his diaper. Spawned one of the most intense and interesting horror franchises ever made. Besides Bloodline, this series has some crazy sequels. And then kind of a remake and kind of a sequel to that remake, which is kind of a remake but really not. I don't know how to explain it. But it doesn't really matter because those movies suck. Moving on to the good from Bloodline. Adam Scott is in this movie. Hey, at least it gets one positive, you know? Adam Scott, he's there. This gotta be one of his first movies. He looks so young, it's crazy.
Baba booey.
But now it's time to move into the bad. For Hellraiser, I really just don't like Julia as a character. She's a cheater who starts off feeling bad about it, but then throughout the movie, I guess she just completely forgets about that and starts killing for Frank. After watching this movie so many times, I really just don't care for how Julia's character is written. Maybe she's just a really shitty person with no morals, but I don't know. And then maybe Larry is just too stupid to realize that his wife is pretty evil. I don't know, that whole part of the plot, basically just Act 2, I'm just not a big fan of. Speaking of that, the plot isn't really the best. Like I said, that whole middle part where Julia starts killing people for Frank, I just don't buy it. I don't think she would just start doing that immediately. They do show a little bit of backstory about how Julia and Frank were in love, but why would you still be with Larry at that point? I don't get it. Maybe it's because Frank got murdered by the lament configuration, but did she never tell Larry? Did Larry never find out? I don't know. Maybe it's just written that way for plot purposes, I guess. Personally, I think Hellraiser 2's plotline is just way better in every aspect, which is why it's one of my favorite horror sequels of all time. And I can't believe I'm not pitting this movie against it. Nope, we're doing Bloodline instead. Let's get into the bad for that. Bloodline explains things we don't need to explain. I just really hate when horror movies like this over-explain themselves. The whole first 40 minutes of this movie is this really unnecessary plotline on how the lament configuration came about and where it came from. I've always thought that was way scarier in horror movies when you had some kind of device like this that summoned demons and it just came out of nowhere. There's no explanation about it. That makes it way scarier. The unknown is always scarier until you explain things. Then it's oh, well, There you go. We have a way to beat this thing now. I don't know. This is like the first Hellraiser sequel where I'm like, this whole film is completely unnecessary. I actually like the 5th movie a lot better, Hellseeker. It actually has like a little more to do with the plotline that was going through like 1 through 3. This one just seems so out of nowhere. I don't know how they went from like doing Hellraiser 3, which is still a really good movie, then to this one, and you're like, what the fuck? Bloodline should have been like the 8th film in this franchise, not the 4th. I don't understand why this one is here instead of like way farther down the line. A plotline that is impossible to follow. I seriously don't know what's going on in this movie. I've tried to watch this thing sober, I've tried to watch this thing a little intoxicated. It just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. The first 2 minutes are in space and then it flashes back to like the 1600s and you got Adam Scott summoning demons and like the dude is creating the puzzle box. What is going on in this movie? Pinhead in space. Oh my god, it's way too early in this franchise for Pinhead to be in space, man. Like, the Leprechaun franchise also goes to space in its 4th movie, but that's because it's the Leprechaun franchise. It's almost like the filmmakers had like no faith in this series whatsoever after 3, and they were just like, screw it, let's take it to space because this franchise fucking sucks. It didn't suck. I like 1 through 3. Some people don't like 3 because Pinhead is portrayed a little differently, but like, it's still pretty good up until then. I would say out of the first 3, like, yeah, 3's the weakest, but like, it's still good. We probably could have had like 2 more really good Hellraiser movies after this, but like they just decided to go AWOL after the 3rd movie. So am I giving out the ugly award? Yeah, it's going straight to Bloodline. But although I am dissing this movie a lot, my patrons did want me to talk about it, so I will say like it has some like scary parts, sure, like it has some good kills. A lot of good gore that the series does have throughout, but it's just like, compared to the rest of the movies, it's like stuff we've already seen before. The new things that this movie tries to explore are so unbelievably ridiculous. It tries to cram all of this stuff into 1 movie. I would have liked to have seen like just 1 movie in space, or 1 movie in like the past at some point when the Lament configuration was being created. Although personally I don't really think this whole series needs an explanation of where things came from. I would be alright with a movie that took place like in the past when the puzzle box was being made, whatever. Like if that was just like 1 whole movie, cool, I don't care. But to pack like 2 movie ideas into 1, it's like, you can't follow it. It's an impossible plotline to follow. And then on top of that, it's not even like funny. It's not even trying to be funny. It's trying to be serious. This movie does not know what it's trying to be at all. It's really confused and it's all over the place. An absolute mess. So the very clear and obvious winner here is the original Hellraiser. It's a horror classic. We got Pinhead from it. One of the coolest horror villains of all time in my opinion. And it spawned 2, maybe 3 really good sequels. Like personally, I like 2, 3, and like Hellseeker. After that, they just get crazy. Honestly though, looking back at all the sequels, I think Bloodline is the craziest. So maybe that's why people like Bloodline. It's very ambitious, it does a lot of crazy stuff, but I just feel like your tone isn't there if you're gonna do like a really silly and ridiculous concept. You can't have silly and ridiculous if you take the silly part out. I mean, it's trying to be serious, this whole movie. It doesn't, I don't know, I don't get it. Just doesn't vibe with me personally. Sometime in the future, I would like to talk about Hellraiser 2 and Hellraiser 3. Heck, I might do a versus video on those 2. I wouldn't want to do like Hellraiser one after another. I kind of like doing different movies and different series like every other versus video, you know? Like I don't want to talk about like the same franchise twice in a row. So eventually you will get that video. I do want to talk about 2, 3, maybe even Hellseeker 2. Although next time I do a versus video, I am doing Jeepers Creepers versus Jeepers Creepers 2. So make sure to check that out in about like 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, I don't know. It's coming soon though. So what do you guys think about these results? Are there some people out there that think Bloodline is the best Hellraiser movie? Please, leave me a comment. Make the argument. I want to hear it. Put that in the comments below because oh boy would I love to read that. Thank you guys so much for watching my versus video on Hellraiser versus Hellraiser Bloodline. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Like I said, the next versus video is going to be on Jeepers Creepers, so make sure to check that out sometime in March. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at KilljoyJake1, on Instagram at Killjoy_Jake, and on TikTok, KilljoyJake. I'm still not sure if they do ads on TikTok, so just look up KilljoyJake, I'm sure I'll come up. Please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can do this full time. I can make even more videos that way. Heck, you could see a versus video once a week if I had enough Patreon supporters. The link for that will be in the description below. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.